Hi everyone, my name is Jake Smeester, Creative Content Specialist for Amazon Sumerian, and in this Builder Session and Office Hours episode, we are going to be showing you how to use voice commands in your scene powered by Lex. This is a common question we get a lot of times, either on Slack and elsewhere, people asking how to use Lex to actually drive behaviors in your scene. So you can tell your scene to do something using your voice, and your scene can respond to that command. In this demo, and we've done this demo a few different places, so you may have seen it before, but what we're going to be showing you how to do, and we're going to make it unique to this particular scene, the city scene I've been working on, is how do you turn on and off the lights by saying turn on the lights or turn off the lights. There is an asset pack that is available to you in the description of this video, so make sure you download that. That's going to include a JavaScript file or a script that we're going to be using inside Sumerian. It also includes a Lex bot. And that Lex bot is going to be, you can import it into Lex in the Lex console to create a new Lex bot. And we're going to walk through that part as well. It's not going to be, this is not going to be a highly detailed walkthrough of Lex itself. So make sure you check out some of the other content that's available regarding Lex. But we are going to walk through a little bit of how it works. And also we're going to show you how to edit it, because you're probably not going to have a scene where the only thing you want to do is turn on and off the lights. So we will show you how to take these assets that we're providing to you and customize them to make them your own. One last note is this is not actually a live episode. This is a redo of a former episode, primarily because the assets that we now have are a little more cleaner and easier to use. And so we wanted to redo this just to make it a little easier to follow along for people that weren't watching live. All right, so there won't be any questions that I'm going to be following, so it's actually not really an office hours, but we're still fitting it in the same series of this builder session using and integrating with AWS. All right, so let's get started. All right, I'm here in my scene, and we have a lot of different assets, and of course, you may not have this city scene, and you don't need to, actually. If you have some lights in your scene, it'll work just fine, because we're not going to really be interacting with anything here. I'm going to start by clicking Create Entity, and I'm going to select Entity. This is an empty entity, and it will populate over here. Doesn't really matter where it is. I'll move it in the middle, because why not? All right, it is an empty entity. I want to rename it, and I'm going to call it _voice command. The reason I do underscore is so that it will show up at the top of my entities panel to make it easier to find. I usually, once I'm done working with this, I will delete the underscore and it'll fall into place alphabetically, but for each demo, it's just nice to navigate. All right, so I'll close that. We're going to add several components. The first is going to be a dialog component. This is the component that will connect our entity and our scene with Lex. And we'll walk through that in a little bit. I'll close that for now. Next, we're going to add a speech component, because while there's going to be not a lot of speech involved in this Lex bot, there is a little bit of audio and a little bit of returned voice. And so having a speech component to actually be able to say something or hear it in your scene is going to be important. So we'll just click speech. You can change the name if you want. I'll leave it as Amy. And we'll add component again, and we'll add a script. We will get to that shortly. All right, let's go back to dialog component, and we want to start with the Lex bot to make sure it's working. And then once we get the Lex bot up and running, we're then going to come back to Sumerian. So let's click Open AWS Console. All right, this will take you over to the AWS Lex, or the Amazon Lex console. I have a number of different bots here. And if you find in the downloadable asset pack that we provided in the description of this video, you'll notice that there is a Lex bot, and it's just a zip file. And if you go to Actions and Import, you can import that whole entire zip file. Don't unzip it or don't extract it. Just go to Import and upload the whole thing. Once you do, it'll create something that looks like this voice command bot. I'm just going to go ahead and open it. So if you need to pause this video and kind of give yourself some time to do that, go ahead. All right, so we are here in our voice command, or in our voice command bot. One thing to note is that it is best make sure that you are operating in the same region that you created your CloudFormation stack. So if you created your CloudFormation stack that produces your Cognito Identity Pool ID, in Oregon, you want to make sure that you're running your Lex bot in Oregon. Lex is also only available in a handful of regions. So that's just something to keep in mind, is that if you don't see Lex, it might be because you're operating in a region that doesn't have Lex. So you might need to switch, and that means we also might need to create a new CloudFormation stack, of which there's the AWS setup tutorial on our documentation site to do that. All right, let's look at this. We have two intents. Let's start with the voice command demo intent. This is really nothing other than a sample utterance where you can say welcome or hi there or hello, and the bot will respond with hi there from Lex. So if I click test chatbot, we can just try this. We just go hello, and it says hi there from Lex. If we go to details, there's nothing returned under slots, so there's really nothing coming back. It's just a simple intent that doesn't do anything but hello there, hello type of thing. Now, let's go to light switch intent. This is the more interesting one. Let's start with slot types. Slot types are the different types of actions or things that you can tell Lex to do or ask Lex. So if I open light switch action, you'll notice there are two values. And as I continue on, this will make a little more sense. We have off and on. That's it. And then you'll notice under sample utterance, we have these utterances that we can say to kind of kick off the chatbot. And this one is turn, light switch action, the light. So if you remember, there's on and off values for this slot type. I can say turn on the light, or light on or off, turn the light on or off. And depending on what that, whatever the slot value I provide, it will then respond by saying the light should be on or off. And you can see that down here because that's how we dictate. That's how this bot is dictating the bot to respond. So let's try this out. So if I go turn on the light should be on. Now you also notice that under the slot types here, there's some values, there's some return data. Light switch action on. If I say light off, light switch action off. This is important because this is what's actually going to be communicating to our Lex or our Sumerian scene that we can, a return value, data value that we can actually do something with. We'll show you how to do that in a minute, but this is important. You also do need to make sure that it is required. I believe that this has to be checked in order to get this return value. So make sure you do that. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit later on, once we get this up and running, I'm going to show you how to add on to this, because most likely you're not going to only want to be able to turn on and off the lights, which makes total sense. So we'll show you how to actually edit this and make it more customizable for whatever you're trying to build. All right, make sure you go to save intent, build, and publish. I would just do all three. Might take a minute to do all three. Make sure to do that. So you can pause this video if you need. Also, make sure you take, I'm trying to copy and paste this. The only thing you need once this is published, the only thing you need is the bot name. So voice command bot. You will be asked to make a alias or like a version type. You can take that if you want, but you don't actually need that. We just need voice command bot. Let's go back to Sumerian, and under the dialog properties, you'll see name, and this is where we'll insert it. Voice command bot. That alias that you created, a lot of times I use tests, but the easiest thing to do is just go latest, and it'll always pull the latest version of it. So you never have to worry about your alias. It's always using the latest. Okay, that's all we have to do. We are now connected to the Amazon Lex bot that we just created. We can't interact with it yet. That's what we'll do next. The one thing I forgot to add was a state machine. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's click a state machine, press the plus button, and we'll call this one voice command behavior. This is not going to be any different than any of the other Amazon Lex bots that we've created in any other videos or in any other tutorials. This is going to be a very standard, in line with everything we've done before. So I'm going to go at it kind of quick. So my first state I'm going to call AWS SDK, and then add the action AWS SDK. All right. we're going to add another state, and we'll just call it input. Doesn't really matter what you name it. The add action is going to be key down. And the key that we're going to use instead of A is we're just going to use spacebar. All right, that will then transition to our next state, which will be start mic recording. We will click add action, and we'll look for that same name, that same action, start microphone recording. You notice it doesn't have a transition here. So that means we need to add one more action. However, we can make it, well, I'm not going to explain why, I'm just going to do it. We want it to be key up action. Key up. And we'll again make this space bar. We'll walk through how this all works in just a moment. And then we want it to transition to our next state, which will be stop mic recording. And we can click add action and look for that same one, stop microphone recording. And then it will add another state. I'll close that out so we can see better. I'll add another state. And we're going to call this one process with Lex. The action it's going to be is send audio input to DialogBot. Kind of a long name, that's why I just said process with Lex. We will add that. And then lastly, we need one more state, and we're going to call this one start speech. Click add action, and we'll search for that same one, start speech. However, instead of selecting a speech, we're just going to use Lex response. Okay, we want to make sure that your AWS SDK state is set as the initial state. Then we're going to add these transitions. So what happens is when we get input from the user, the space bar goes down. It then transitions. It starts recording. And it will be recording until we do the key up action. So when the space bar goes up, it'll then transition to stop the microphone recording, of which it'll stop recording, and then it'll just transition right away to process with Lex. It'll process with Lex the response. So for example, if we say hello Lex or hello, it'll say hi there from Lex or turn on the light. And the response will be turn on the light. So once this response is ready, which happens pretty quickly, it'll then transition to this start speech, which then using the Lex response, as we've had this checked, will then actually spit back that response from Lex. Okay, and then we don't need to go back to the AWS SDK ready again. We're just going to go back to input, so then it'll loop around. All right, so now that we have this set up, I'm just making sure that we have everything in line. Let's click space. Let's play the scene and see how it works. I'm just going to say something like, hello.
Sorry, can you please repeat that?
Hello.
Hi there from Lex.
All right, she understood me there. Let's say, turn on the light.
The light should be on.
Turn off the light.
The light should be off.
Okay, so as you see, our Alexbot is working. The lights are not being turned on and off, but that's expected because we haven't built that in yet. I'm going to also change my camera to this overlooking camera to be my main starting camera. All right. One thing I forgot to do was that voice command behavior. I also wanted to put the underscore there. Okay. Now, we want a few things to happen. And to do that, well, what we want to happen, sorry, I'm trying to think what to do next. All right, so what we want to happen is we get that response. The light should be on, the light should be off. And remember that value, that data should be returned also. The light action, what is it called? The light switch action on or off. So that value is that now coming back from Lex. And we want to have a script that can process that data and then create something to then emit a message that we can do something within Sumerian. So we're going to now go to our script, component and click the plus button. We're just going to go custom. Oh, and then once we have that script instance, we're going to click the little pencil icon, and that'll open up the text editor. The name of this script, we're just going to call Lex Listen Script. And all you need to do is copy and paste what's in the script in that asset pack that you can download in the description of this video and replace everything here. Let's walk through what this is doing. Okay, so this function is really connecting with Lex or listening for Lex. Now, if the dialog state is fulfilled, it is going to then run through the different types. I'm actually going to delete this. I didn't mean to have that. You won't have that one in there. We'll add that in a little bit later, but we'll go through it because I just want to look exactly as the way yours does. All right, so in the case that the value for the light switch action and the value is on, returned on, it is going to emit a message, switch on. If the case is off for the light switch action, it's going to emit a message, light switch off. So this is really, this is turning the values returned from Lex into emitted message within Sumerian. And this is key because once you get something inside Sumerian that can emit a message, you can do whatever you want in Sumerian. And that's what I'm finding is that anytime you can really just translate a value or some sort of action or some sort of topic or some sort of activity into an emitted message, that's when you can start doing fun stuff within Sumerian. So this is really all we need. We just need one of these messages to be emitted. So just remember that, switch on. I'll just copy it for now. And then you also have to click save. That's important. Okay. Now, we want to turn on and off the lights. And so we want to select one of the lights. And we're going to add a state machine. This is for a different demo. Don't worry about that. And then we're going to click the plus button. And we can call this one, again, underscore light on off behavior. The first state we want to call it listen, and then we're going to add an action. And then we want to, oops, wasn't doing it. There we go. Listen action, not DOM event listener, but just listen. And what do we want in here? The value that is being emitted, or the message that is being emitted from that script, which is switch on. We're then going to add a new state, and we're just going to call it lights off, add action, set light properties. I did that a little fast. Let me look at that again. Add action, set light properties. Oops, I added two. Don't need that. Just one of those, and you can just let's make the intensity 0, because if the intensity is 0, that means it's turning off the light. There is no transition notice down here. That means we need to add a transition, just a simple transition or simple transition action that will do nothing other than transition. Right. Now we need to add another listen. So we're going to select this one and duplicate it. And instead of switch on, we'll make it off. We're going to take our lights off state, duplicate that, and change it to on, and return the intensity back to 1. Now we're going to add transitions here. One thing I should have done, well, before we test this, let's go ahead and add on this same. I'm going to take these ones. This is again for a different demo. So don't worry about this. we will be doing shortly a demo on using Lambda and emails. All right, so let's go to our next light and just drag and drop that light on-off behavior to that one, and then also the rim. So now we have one behavior that is affecting all three of the default lights. All right, let's see how this works. Turn off the light.
Sorry, can you please repeat that?
Turn off the light.
The light should be off.
Turn on the light.
The light should be on.
Turn off the light.
The light should be off.
Getting some interesting behavior. And I just realized what I did. That's because... Okay, I have these backwards. This needs to be off, and this one needs to be on. It's working, it just was listening for the wrong ones. So now let's test it out again. Turn off the light.
The light should be off.
There we go. Turn on the light.
The light should be on.
Okay, so now it's responding to our commands. Now, let's make it a little bit more interesting. Let's say that we want to customize this, which makes total sense. Let's go back to our Lex bot, and you can always add in a new slot type. And if you want to start building out a different intent with other slot types, and so you can make it a lot more in-depth and a lot more complex, you can certainly do that from this same Lex bot, but now you understand kind of how it works. Now let's just add in another slot type. So let's say we want to be able to dim the lights. So I'll go to value, or add another value, and I'll click there, and I'll click the plus button. And then you say off, on, dim. Then I will click save slot, add slot to intent. And now we need to, I could say turn dim the light, but that doesn't make a lot of sense. So we'll say, can you, light switch action the light. Press the plus button. There we go. One thing that's important to keep in mind is just typically it's best practice to not, you could say, it seems like it would make most sense to go light switch action, typing action the light. Because it seems like it would make sense to say dim the light. That would make sense, but it's not. It's best practice to not put your slot type value in front at the very beginning of your sample utterance as the first word, because there's some reasons why that could be. So just best practice is to put something else in front, like can you dim the light? All right. One thing that's to keep important is making sure that you have the latest version of your bot. And we are going to save, build. All right. I'm going to hit publish as well. All right, and we'll close. And let's just test this out. It's always good to make sure you are testing before you jump over to Sumerian. Can you dim the light? The light should be dim. Good, and you see that value is returned, light switch action, dim. All right, so it is working. We've published it. Now we can go back over to Sumerian. And let's open up our text editor, and let's get that same Lex listen script. If you remember from a few minutes ago, I deleted something, and now I'm going to add it back. But all I'm going to do is just take one from case on, I'm going to copy and paste. Instead of on, we're going to make it dim. So it's looking for that value to be returned, and then we'll just say dim on. Again, this could be whatever you want it to be. You could have as many different slot values as you want. You can also take this whole light switch action, or this whole slot type, and add multiple slot types. And so you can start repeating this and copying and pasting and just changing those values to match your specific Lexbot. So that's how you would actually get started to start customizing it. Then you can start doing, now notice that this dim on, we need to remember that. Because now I can take this light on-off behavior. I'm going to copy it or duplicate it. And instead of light on-off, I'll call it light dim behavior instead of 2. And so for the first listen, it's going to be listen for dim on. And instead of lights dim or lights off, we're going to make the intensity 0.5. And then listen, we'll just keep it as switch on again to bring the intensity back to 1. Okay, now we created these state machine behaviors, or this next state machine behavior, but we do need to where was that? Default lights. That's what I'm looking for. There it is. We do need to we created this new behavior just from the assets panel. We do need to then add it to each of our lights. So light dim behavior, I'll add it to that one. There we go. So now it has both. And let's open up this dim behavior. Let's play the scene and see how this works. Can you dim the light?
Sorry, can you please repeat that?
Can you dim the light?
The light should be dim.
Turn on the light.
The light should be on.
There we go. All right. And that's how you start using Lex to drive behaviors using voice or to add voice commands to your behaviors. Obviously, this is just like a first step into this capability and functionality. And once you take this Lexbot, you can build it out to be as complex as you want or need. And then that same script you can add to it and make it a lot more complex. So this is really just the first step to start using voice-based commands and behaviors within your scene. All right, thanks for joining. I hope you watch the next video in the series. Again, we are streaming live several times a week, so make sure you check out our schedule on the website. We have a lot of stuff going on, and join our Slack community as well. You can find updates and we'll be notifying when we're going to be online. Of course, you can reach out anytime to anybody on the team, and we'll try to help you out with in whatever way we possibly can. All right, thanks again for watching, and we hope to see you in our next video.